Today we're going to be talking about dividing numbers with a decimal in the dividend. So if you look at 180 and 2/10 divided by 4, like always, first step is going to be to come up with an estimate. I might round this all the way up to 200 and think about this as 200 divided by 4. Know that 20 divided by 4 is 5, plus that extra 0 is 50. And I'm going to start solving it like normal. So 4 is the divisor. It goes outside of the house. So I asked myself, how many times does 4 go into 1? And that is 0 times. Then I'm going to move on to the 18. 4 goes into 18. Let's see, 4 times 4 is 16. I'm going to subtract. I'm left with 2. And then I'm going to bring down the next digit, which is 0. 4 goes into 25 times, exactly. 4 times 5 is 20. I subtract. I'm left with 0. But I'm not done. There's a decimal in this dividend, so I'm going to have to float that straight up into my answer and then bring down the next digit, 2. 4 goes into 2 0 times, but I don't want to leave this as 45 remainder 2, so I'm going to add a placeholder 0 because we know that there's an infinite number of zeros after a decimal. And now I can say 4 times 5 is 20. Subtract, and I'm left with nothing. There's nothing left to bring down, so 45 and 5/10 is my quotient or final answer. Let's try another one. 150 and 6/10 divided by 3. For my estimate, I'd probably just think about this as 150 even divided by 3 because I know that 15 divided by 3 is 5 plus a 0 is 50. Rosemary's in the background working. Ignore her. Okay, now to actually solve. 3 goes into 1 0 times because 3 is bigger than 1, so I'm going to look at 15. 3 goes into 15 5 times even. 3 times 5 is 15, so I'm going to subtract, and I'm left with 0. Bring down my next digit, which is a 0. Now I have to ask myself, 3 goes into 0 0 times. Really important that I'm lining things up as I go. Next, I see a decimal that I'm going to have to float straight up into my quotient and then bring down the next digit, 6. 3 goes into 6 2 times even. 6 minus 6 is 0. So my final answer, my quotient, is 50 and 2/10. If I wanted to do a quick inverse operation, 50 and 2/10 times 3, I want to make sure that this gets us back to 150.6. See, 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 0 is 0. 3 times 5 is 15. I have one digit after the decimal, so I need to do that in my answer as well, and I got back to 150 and 6/10, so this checks out. All right, come up with your own estimate and then solve. Okay, if I were estimating, I'd probably think about this as 320 divided by 4, because I know that 32 divided by 4 is 8, plus that 0 is somewhere in the 80 range. Now to actually solve, 4 goes into 3 0 times. You'll notice that I'm going to be really careful that I line up each digit in my quotient right above the number I'm dealing with in the dividend. That's going to make sure that I don't make any mistakes, especially as I get into the decimal portion of this equation. All right, 4 goes into 32 8 times. 4 times 8 is 32. Subtract, I'm left with 0. Bring down the 5. 4 goes into 5 1 time. I want to subtract 4. I'm left with 1. Now it's super important that I float the decimal straight up before I bring down the 5. Now 4 goes into 15. Let's see, 4 times 3 is 12. I subtract, I'm left with 3, and then I can add a placeholder 0. There's an infinite number of placeholder zeros that I can bring down and make this 30. 4 goes into 30. Let's see, 4 times 7 is 28. Which leaves me with 2, and I can add one more placeholder 0 to bring down, make this 20. 4 goes into 20 5 times, even, and I'm done. So my final answer, my quotient is 81 and 375,000. So pretty involved, but very close to my estimate of 80. Come up with an estimate and then solve. All right, for my estimate, I would probably think about this as 210 divided by 3 because I know that 21 divided by 3 is 7, plus that extra 0 is a 70, so somewhere in the 70 range. Now to actually solve, 3 goes into 2, or there are how many groups of 3 will fit inside 2, and that is 0, so now I have to look at the 21. 3 goes into 21 7 times. 3 times 7 is 21. So So I subtract it, I'm left with 0, and I can bring down this 2. 3 goes into 2 0 times, and now it's time that I float up the decimal into my answer, and I can bring down the next digit, 4. 3 goes into 24 8 times. 3 times 8 is 24. I subtracted and I'm left with 0, so no remainder, there's nothing left to bring down, so 70 and 8/10 is my quotient, my final answer, and if I do a quick inverse operation, 70 and 8/10 times 3, I want to make sure I can get back to 212 and 4/10. So let's see, 3 times 8 is 24, 3 times 0 is 0, plus 2 is 2, and then 3 times 7 is 21. Looks like 2,124, but I have one digit after the decimal, and my factors, the numbers I'm multiplying together, so I need to have one digit after my decimal and my final answer, and I did get back to 212 and 4/10, so that checks out.